A week before my wedding, I found out my fiancé had been sleeping with my maid of honor. Not a one-time mistake, not a drunken accident. 6 months. They'd been doing this for 6 months, and I was the last person to know. His name was Ryan. We'd been together for 4 years. The wedding was planned for October 13th at a vineyard 2 hours outside the city. 200 guests, $70,000, most of it already paid. My parents had contributed $20,000. I'd emptied my savings for the rest. The dress alone was $4,000 hanging in my closet in a garment bag I couldn't look at without feeling sick. And Jenna, my maid of honor, my best friend since college, the person I'd called crying when Ryan first proposed, the one who helped me pick out centerpieces and argued with the florist when they tried to overcharge us. She'd been in my apartment every weekend for months, talking about bouquets and seating charts and whether the bridesmaids should wear blush or dusty rose. I found out because Ryan left his phone on my kitchen counter while he was in the shower. It buzzed. I wasn't trying to snoop. The message preview showed on the lock screen it was from Jenna. "Can't wait for tonight. Tell her you're working late again." I stood there holding his phone. My hands started shaking before my brain even caught up. I unlocked it. He'd never changed his passcode from the one I already knew. There were hundreds of messages, photos, plans, detailed conversations about me, about how I was stressed about the wedding, how I'd been difficult lately, how they both felt guilty but couldn't stop. The messages went back to April. We got engaged in March. I scrolled through months of them planning hookups around my schedule. They knew when I had late meetings, when I'd be at the gym, when I'd be visiting my parents. They'd used every gap in my routine. They'd done it in his car, in her apartment. Once in the bathroom at my own engagement party, while I was outside talking to guests, there was a photo from that night. Jenna in her blue dress, the one I'd complimented, her lipstick smeared. I remembered that night. I'd wondered why she'd been gone so long. She said she wasn't feeling well. I read messages where they talked about the wedding. Jenna asking Ryan if he was really going through with it. Ryan saying he didn't know. Jenna saying she couldn't keep doing this after we were married. Ryan saying maybe they should tell me. Then both of them deciding not to, deciding it was easier to just let it happen and figure it out later. When Ryan came out of the shower, I was sitting on the couch with his phone in my lap. I didn't yell, I didn't cry yet. I just asked him how long. He tried to lie at first, said it was nothing. Then he said it was recent. Then he admitted it had been going on since April. His face was red. He kept running his hands through his wet hair. He said he loved me. He said it didn't mean anything. He said Jenna was just easy to talk to and it spiraled and he didn't know how to stop it. He said he still wanted to marry me. He said we could go to couples therapy. He said it would never happen again. I asked him if he loved her. He said no. Then he said he didn't know. Then he said it was complicated. I told him to get out. He started crying. Actually crying. He said he'd made a mistake. He said everyone makes mistakes. He said I was overreacting because of the wedding stress. That's what he said. That I was overreacting. I stood up and walked to the door and opened it. I said, "Get out of my apartment." He left. I sat there for 2 hours without moving. I didn't cry. I just stared at the wall. My mind kept replaying things. Every time Jenna had come over to help with wedding planning, every time Ryan said he had to work late, every smile, every hug, every lie. Then I called Jenna. She answered on the second ring, all cheerful, asking if I'd finalized the menu with the caterer. Yet I said, I know about you and Ryan. The silence was so long I thought she'd hung up. Then she started crying. She said she was sorry. She said it just happened. She said she never meant to hurt me. She said she'd been trying to end it, but Ryan kept pursuing her. She actually said that. She made herself the victim. I asked her how many times. She said she didn't know. I asked her if it was in her apartment. She said yes. I asked her if it was the day we picked out bridesmaid dresses together. The day she said she had a headache and I left early and she stayed home. She didn't answer. That was answer enough. I hung up on her. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and started making a list. The venue was paid in full, non-refundable, $15,000. The caterer had a cancellation clause, but I'd lose the deposit, $8,000. The photographer was paid in full, $3,000. The DJ, the florist, the cake, the rentals, all of them had contracts. Cancelling meant losing everything I'd already paid. I pulled up my bank account. I had $900 left. That was it. Everything else had gone into the wedding. My savings account, which had taken me 3 years to build up to $35,000, was empty. My parents' $20,000 was gone too. They'd taken out a loan for it. A loan they were still paying back. The invitations had gone out 2 months ago. Everyone had RSVP'd. My family had booked hotel rooms. Ryan's parents had flown in from Seattle 3 days early and were staying at a bed and breakfast in town. The nice one that cost $200 a night. Cousins I hadn't seen in years were coming. My aunt had bought a new dress. My grandmother, who was 86 and hadn't traveled in 5 years, was coming. I thought about calling it off, just sending out a mass message, cancelling everything, hiding in my apartment for a month until the shame wore off enough that I could face people again. I drafted the message 3 times. Due to unforeseen circumstances, the wedding has been cancelled. We apologise for any inconvenience. But I kept thinking about the money. $70,000, 3 years of saving, my parents' contribution, which they couldn't afford to just lose. They'd said it was a gift, but I knew they'd borrowed it. I knew my father had picked up extra shifts. I knew my mother had been worried, and Ryan got to walk away from this with nothing but a guilty conscience while I ate the entire financial and social cost of his betrayal. That's when the idea started forming. The wedding was in 7 days. Everything was paid for. Everyone was coming. The venue was booked. The food was ordered. The band was ready. So I decided to have the party anyway. Not the wedding, the party. I spent the next day making calls. I told the venue coordinator there was a change of plans. It was no longer a wedding, just a celebration. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Is everything all right?" I said everything was fine. We just weren't getting married, but still wanted to use the space. She didn't ask questions. She said the contract didn't specify it had to be a wedding, so we were good. I called the caterer. Same conversation. The woman on the phone sounded confused, but said as long as we still needed the food for 200 people, they'd be there. I called the DJ. He asked if I wanted different music. I said yes, more upbeat, nothing romantic. No first dance songs, no love ballads. He said he could do that. I called the florist and said I wanted to keep the arrangements, but could we make them less bridal? She said she'd swap out the white roses for something more colourful. Each call made it more real. I was doing this. I was actually doing this. I called my parents. My mother answered. I told her Ryan and I had broken up. She went quiet. I could hear my father in the background asking what was wrong. Then she asked, what happened? I told her he'd been cheating with Jenna. My father got on the phone. He said he'd always thought Ryan was weak. He said he saw it in the way Ryan couldn't make decisions, always deferred to other people. My mother said to cancel everything and come home for a while. They lived 6 hours away in the town where I grew up. I said I wasn't canceling. I said the party was paid for and I was going to use it. My mother didn't understand at first. She said, "What do you mean use it?" Then I explained. I was going to have the party. I was going to invite everyone who'd been invited to the wedding, and I was going to tell them exactly why the wedding wasn't happening. There was a long silence. Then my father laughed. It was sharp and short. He said, "Good. Let everyone know what kind of man he is." My mother was worried. She said people would talk. She said it might be embarrassing. I said people were going to talk anyway. At least this way they'd know the truth. I didn't tell Ryan. I didn't tell Jenna. I blocked both their numbers after Ryan's 15th call. I called my bridesmaids, there were 4, not counting Jenna, and told them what happened. 2 of them cried. One of them, Sarah, said she'd suspected something but didn't know how to tell me. She said she'd seen Ryan and Jenna leaving a restaurant together 2 months ago, but they'd said it was wedding planning stuff and she'd believed them. All of them said they'd be there on the 13th. All of them said they'd do whatever I needed. Then I drafted a message. I spent an hour on it, making sure the tone was right, not bitter, not angry, just honest. I sent it to every single person on the guest list except Ryan and Jenna. There's been a change of plans. Ryan and I are not getting married. However, the party is still happening on October 13th at the same venue, same time. I'd love for you to join me in celebrating the end of something that wasn't right and the beginning of whatever comes next. No gifts necessary, just your presence. I got responses within minutes. Confusion at first. My cousin texted, "Wait, what happened?" My college roommate called immediately. People wanted details. I sent a follow-up message saying I'd explain everything at the party. My cousin called me and said she was absolutely coming and bringing extra wine. My college roommate said she'd always hated Ryan anyway, that he was condescending at dinner parties. Ryan's college friends started texting, asking what happened. I didn't respond to them. Let Ryan explain. Ryan tried to call me 47 times over the next 3 days. I counted. He showed up at my apartment twice. I watched him through the peephole, standing in the hallway, knocking. I didn't answer the door. He sent emails, long ones, apologizing, begging, saying we could fix this, saying he'd end things with Jenna, saying it was a mistake, saying he'd been confused, saying he loved me and only me. One email was 8 paragraphs long. He said he'd been scared of commitment and that's why he'd sabotaged things. He said therapy could fix it. He said he'd do anything. He said we could postpone the wedding, work through it, start fresh. I deleted them all without responding. Jenna sent flowers with a card that said, "I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. You're my best friend." I threw them in the dumpster behind my building without taking them out of the cellophane. Ryan's mother called me on day 4. She was kind. She said she'd heard we'd broken up and she was sorry. She said Ryan had always been impulsive and she hoped I was okay. She didn't ask what happened. I think Ryan had told her some version that made him look better. Probably said we'd grown apart or that I'd called it off. I didn't correct her. I just said thank you and that I hoped she'd still come to the party. She paused. Then she said, "Of course, we already flew out here and I'd like to see you." I thanked her. She was a good person. She deserved better than Ryan too. The week moved, slowly and quickly at the same time. I took time off work. I told my boss there was a family emergency. He didn't ask questions. I went to the venue and walked through everything with the coordinator. We changed the seating chart. I removed Ryan's family from the head table and spread them throughout the room. I didn't want them to feel ambushed or humiliated. This wasn't about them. I added a microphone to the setup and told the DJ I'd be making a speech. He asked if I wanted it at the beginning or after dinner. I said after dinner, when people had some drinks in them and were relaxed. I picked up my dress from the alterations place. The woman who'd done the final fitting asked how I was feeling. I said fine. She said I looked tired. I said I wasn't sleeping well. She said that was normal before a wedding. I didn't correct her. I thought about returning the dress, but I'd already paid for it and alterations weren't refundable anyway. It hung in my closet. I didn't know if I'd use it. I wear it. Part of me wanted to burn it. I wrote what I was going to say at the party. I rewrote it 4 times. I wanted it to be honest, but not cruel. I didn't want to sound like a victim. I didn't want to sound bitter. I just wanted people to understand without me having to humiliate myself completely. My bridesmaids came over the night before the party. We ordered pizza and drank wine. Sarah asked if I was nervous. I said yes. She asked if I was sure I wanted to do this. I said I'd already done it. There was no backing out now. The night before the party, I couldn't sleep again. I kept thinking Ryan would show up, that he'd make a scene, that Jenna would come and beg for forgiveness in front of everyone. I ran through scenarios in my head, what I'd say, how I'd handle it. But the morning of October 13th came and I got up and I started getting ready. I did my hair the way I'd planned, soft curls, half up. I did my makeup, natural with a slightly darker lip than usual. I put on the dress. It fit perfectly. It was ivory, simple, with lace sleeves and a low back. Elegant, expensive. I looked like a bride. I looked beautiful and I felt nothing. My bridesmaids met me at the venue 2 hours early. They helped me finish setting up. We moved the floral arrangements. The florist had done what I asked. Less white, more colour. There were dahlias and roses in deep pink and burgundy. They were beautiful. We checked the bar, confirmed everything with the caterer. The tables were set with ivory linens and gold chargers. The string lights were already on, even though it was only 2 in the afternoon. One of my bridesmaids, Michelle, asked if I was okay. I said I didn't know yet. Guests started arriving at 4. The venue was beautiful. It was a restored barn with exposed beams and string lights, surrounded by vineyard rows that were just starting to turn gold. The weather was perfect. 70 degrees, clear sky, a light breeze. If things had been different, it would have been my dream wedding day. People came up to me, hugging me, saying they were proud of me. Some looked confused, some looked sad. My aunt cried and said she was sorry. My uncle shook his head and muttered about Ryan being an idiot. Ryan's mother arrived with his father. She hugged me tight and whispered, "You deserved better." His father shook my hand and said he was sorry things hadn't worked out. They both looked uncomfortable but kind. I realized then that Ryan hadn't told them the truth. Or if he hadn't told them all of it. By 5, almost everyone was there. 193 people. I'd counted the RSVPs that morning. The only ones missing were Ryan, Jenna, and a few of Ryan's friends who'd clearly chosen his side. The DJ played music, people drank, they mingled, the bar was open, the appetizers came out, bacon-wrapped dates, bruschetta, shrimp cocktail, everything I'd picked out months ago. It looked like a wedding reception without the ceremony. A few people asked when I was going to make a toast. I said soon. I was waiting for the right moment. After dinner, after people had relaxed. We sat down to eat at 6:30. The caterer served salad, then the main course. I'd chosen herb-crusted chicken and salmon. There was also a vegetarian option. People ate, they talked, it almost felt normal. At 7:45, after dessert had been served, I asked the DJ to cut the music. I took the microphone. The room went quiet. A couple hundred eyes on me. My hands were shaking, but I kept them at my sides. I didn't have notes. I'd memorized what I wanted to say. Thank you all for coming, I started. My voice was steady. I was surprised by that. I know the invitation I sent out was a little confusing, so I want to take a minute to explain. I saw my mother near the front, her hands folded in her lap. My father stood beside her, arms crossed, nodding slightly. A week ago, I found out that Ryan had been having an affair with my maid of honor for the last 6 months. I found out by accident. He didn't tell me. She didn't tell me. I found a text message on his phone. The room was so quiet, I could hear someone's glass clink against a table. I thought about canceling everything. I thought about hiding and pretending none of this happened, but I'd already spent $70,000 on this day. My parents contributed. I emptied my savings, and I realized that canceling would mean Ryan's choices cost me everything while he walked away free. I paused. People were staring. Some looked angry, some looked sad. Ryan's mother had her hand over her mouth. So I decided to have the party anyway, not to celebrate a marriage that wasn't going to happen, but to celebrate the fact that I found out who he really was before I legally tied myself to him, and to celebrate all of you, the people who actually showed up for me. Someone in the back started clapping, then someone else. Then the whole room was applauding. My father was nodding. My cousin was wiping her eyes. So thank you for being here. Let's eat, drink, and enjoy this beautiful venue that I paid for. I handed the microphone back to the DJ. The music started again. People swarmed me. Hugs, reassurances, anger on my behalf. My cousin said Jenna had some nerve. My uncle said Ryan was a coward, and if he ever saw him again, he'd tell him exactly what he thought. Ryan's mother found me near the bar an hour later. She looked tired. She pulled me aside, away from the crowd. She said, "I didn't know it was Jenna. He told me it was some girl from work. He said you two wanted different things." I nodded. I didn't know what to say. She said, "I'm ashamed of him. You were too good for him anyway. You always were." Then she hugged me and left. A lot of Ryan's family left early, but they all hugged me before they went. Some apologized, even though they had nothing to apologize for. The party went until midnight. People danced, they ate, they drank. The DJ played songs I'd picked out months ago, just not the slow ones. My bridesmaids gave speeches about how strong I was, how brave. Sarah said she'd never seen anyone handle a situation with more grace. My father danced with me around 11. It was supposed to be the father-daughter dance. The DJ played the song we'd chosen. My father didn't say anything. He just held my hand and swayed, and I cried for the first time all week. Real tears, not angry tears, just sad ones. He said, you're going to be okay. I said, I know. I know. When it was over, when everyone had left, I stood in the empty barn and looked at the mess of glasses and plates and wilted flowers. The coordinator said cleanup was included. I thanked her. She said it was the most memorable event she'd ever worked. I walked to my car in my wedding dress, carrying my shoes. I drove home with the windows down. I hung the dress back in the closet. I washed my face. I got into bed. And I felt lighter than I had in months. Ryan tried to contact me again the next day. He'd heard about the party. Someone had told him. He sent a long text from a new number I hadn't blocked yet. He was furious. He said I'd humiliated him. He said I'd turned everyone against him. He said it was cruel and vindictive. He said I was bitter. I didn't respond. I blocked the new number. Jenna sent an email 2 weeks later, a long one. She said she understood if I never forgave her. She said she and Ryan had broken up. She said she regretted everything. She said she missed me. She said our friendship meant more to her than anything, and she destroyed it. I deleted it without finishing. I kept the dress for a while. I thought about selling it, but I couldn't bring myself to. Eventually, I donated it to a charity that gives wedding dresses to military brides. Someone who deserved a fresh start could use it. The money was gone, all of it. I didn't get any of it back. My savings account stayed empty for another year. My parents finished paying off their loan last spring, but I didn't regret the party. People still talk about it. My cousin brings it up at every family gathering. She calls it the best non-wedding she's ever been to. I'm not bitter anymore. I was for a while. The first few months were hard. I'd see something that reminded me of Ryan or Jenna, and I'd feel that anger rise up. But it faded. Time did that. Mostly, I'm grateful. Grateful I found out when I did. Grateful I didn't marry someone who could lie to me for 6 months. Grateful for the people who showed up, literally and figuratively. Grateful that I trusted myself enough to do something unconventional instead of just accepting the humiliation quietly. Ryan got engaged again 2 years later. I heard it from a mutual friend who thought I should know. I didn't feel anything when I found out. No anger, no sadness, nothing. I hope he's better to her than he was to me. I genuinely do. I haven't spoken to Jenna since that phone call. I heard she moved to a different city, Boston, I think, or maybe Portland. I hope she's doing okay. I really do, but I don't need to know. As for me, I'm careful now. I pay attention. I trust my instincts. And I don't ignore red flags just because I've already invested time or money or emotion into something. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Sometimes the best thing you can do is stop pretending everything is fine and just tell the truth, even if it costs you everything you've saved, even if it's embarrassing, even if people judge you for it. I'd rather lose $70,000 than spend the rest of my life with someone who didn't respect me enough to be honest. If this story meant something to you, I'd be grateful if you'd leave a like. And if you want to hear more stories like this one, feel free to subscribe. I'm curious. Have you ever had to make a choice between your pride and your peace? Let me know in the comments.